Hello, Briat.
Hey, Brian.
So yet another day in lockdown. So today I just wanted to do a short bit. So hopefully we can wrap this up in like 15 minutes. And we did have a slight conversation about how we interpret what's happening around us. This is a very special time for all of us. This is unprecedented in our history.
Hmm.
So where would you go with that? In that it matters how we interpret what's going on around us.
I think that the way you interpret is going to obviously have a very big effect on the way you're going to experience this lockdown, and that how you interpret it is going to be based on certain choices you've made throughout your life and certain belief systems that you've had. So if you're going to be feeling very anxious and trapped, it's because in some way or other your belief systems are making you feel that this is how you have to respond to the situation, when in fact you don't. And somebody who's actually um, more aware of these functions, they can change it. And anybody can do that just by a little bit of introspection and meditation. You can change those belief systems and actually have quite a pleasant experience. So I think that's something that
So
would be nice to talk about.
most people think they don't have a choice with
Yes,
how they respond. So
yes.
this could, my interpretation of reality is it's not changing because it's my interpretation of reality. How do you change that?
Your interpretation of reality is not changing.
When no, but if we said to people how you're seeing things, you can change that. They would shrug their shoulders and say, "Well, how?" I mean, and we're talking about like the fear interpretation, for
Yeah.
example. Like, what are you saying? How do you like talk to
I
that a
would
little bit?
I think one should start really at the beginning, take a few steps back, and before you start trying to change it, one should first start to try and see how you've already made the choice to see it in the way you're seeing it now. And then
Okay,
once you can actually find that point where you've made that choice, then you can just make a different choice. But it's a matter of finding that
okay,
point where you've made that choice.
all right. So let's take them on a journey of what would be
Yeah.
next, or what would you want to say? Do you want to go into detail about that, or do you just want to do a short overview?
Well, I think one can just give like a little bit of an example that I think many people can relate to. Let's say you're sitting in traffic and a guy cuts in front of you in the traffic. It evokes a certain emotional response in your body, and then you're compelled to act on that. And some people, they'll flick their finger out the window and scream some explicitive, or another person will just bite his tongue and he'll just say something to the passenger next to them about how silly this person is. And another person, he'll just kind of shrug it off and smile. So all these people, they're having like exact same circumstance, but they're having so much of a difference of a reaction to it and an experience. Whether the one person, it actually can spoil the entire day, and for another person it actually doesn't have any effect whatsoever. So so what's happening there is somewhere along the line, that person who became so upset, he's made a choice, he's made a pact with himself that when this happens, I have to respond like this, and it's okay to respond like that. And this
So
is the
these are
fact
my
that what,
values.
excuse me?
These are my values.
Yes,
If people
yes.
do this or people do that, then the meanings I've attached to it is that it's not okay, and I'm justified in getting upset and reacting. And the thing that people don't notice is that that reaction, a negative reaction, at even if you don't wave your hand out the window, it's still not making you feel good inside.
Yes.
What you're walking around with, you've changed your energy and your frequency from something that is calm and content to something that's annoyed and anxious.
Yeah, and then that will
Okay,
affect
and
your
then
next
what?
interaction
Good
that you have.
example, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent example.
Yeah. So
Okay,
we want
then.
to actually then encourage people to accept this point, that you've chosen that these values for yourself, and that you have a choice to choose what values you want and what you don't want. And if you really want what's best for you, you should choose values which are going to help you construct a better experience in life for yourself. And something like
Okay, so
becoming upset at something that you don't have to become upset at is definitely not going to increase the quality of your life. So you should
so
then. Hmm?
so in life we've already chosen what we value, what's okay and what's not okay, and
Yes,
all of these things that we've already made choices about, and they're unexamined. We haven't gone, is this good for me, is this the best set of choices that I can make for myself, and I can actually choose differently by being
yes,
conscious to what I did choose, watch what my reaction is, and decide if that's actually appropriate or not.
yeah. Is that what you want for yourself, honestly? And
Yes.
if it is,
Okay.
if a negative reaction is what you want for yourself, then that's fine. It's your choice to make. But you then have to sit with the consequences of that, and you can't complain about it either.
Aha. Very clear.
Be responsible.
Okay.
But now, for a
And
person
then,
who wants to change it, then they need to actually just at that point when it happens, or even just in the reflection, maybe after it's happened, they're thinking about the situation of this guy that cut in and how they responded and how they're feeling still a bit bad about it, and then acknowledging that I think it's okay to act like that. And then just you can vocalize and even write it down for you, but you have to say it. It is not okay to react like this when the person does that. It's not okay.
right.
And in that way, you
Yeah,
actually.
but it has to be, it's not okay because, it's the right thing to do or it's dogma. It's got to be the right thing to do is because you examine it and you realize that it's not aligned with who you truly are.
Exactly. Exactly.
If I want a calmer, more loving life, then if I'm constant, and I do this, I actually do get upset with people in traffic from time to time, and I think I'm just blowing off steam or whatever. And but I've made a choice, and I'm justified in doing that, and
Yeah.
that it does have an effect on me. And I but there's ones that I have found that are much more important that I'm focusing on, changing those habits. But the point of it is, you said that you make choices across your entire life. You've made choices, and most of them have been unconscious.
Yes.
Okay, and then what?
Well, then let's say now you want to change your values. You say it to yourself in that way. And then the next time it happens, actually, it's as easy as that. And if you've really made that as an affirmation for yourself, then the next time it happens, you won't actually be as inclined to acting that way. Because when you want to act in that way, you'll feel like it's not okay to do that. This is not in alignment with my value system. So there's a force pushing you from not doing that. So already you've gotten support by your own value system that you've chosen now. Whereas
Yeah.
before, that
How I
force
talk
wasn't
about
there.
how I talk about that is that I have new truths that are more aligned with who I am, and I have some old habits that are that they just, well, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. You
Yeah,
get hit in the knee, and my reflex goes up, and my knee goes up. So if I don't displace the habit with my new truths, then I'm stuck with the old ones.
yeah. And then you're stuck with the consequences also.
Yes, very true.
Exactly.
Okay, so you were talking about interventions and displacement of these beliefs and the habits, and maybe some kind of practice. If we could have a look at what ideas that you have about how to create these interventions or start displacing these beliefs.
Well, I think one good thing is a good introspective exercise is if you are doing something which you don't want to be doing and is having a negative effect, and particularly with relationships, because generally that's what happens, then one should project oneself into the future. What would happen if I do not change this behavior? And then you see in 20 years' time, for example, my son now, who will grow up and he won't want anything to do with me. So just as an example, if I don't stop this
Yes.
behavior. And then you ask yourself, how does this make you feel? And it's going to make you feel terrible. And that's good. You have to really churn that feeling. And you have to come to the point where you're like, I have to change now. Unless you've come to that point,
That's
you're
a
not
really
going to
good point.
change. Excuse me?
Yeah, that's a really good point, is the words that I use for that. When you get in touch with the cost of what it is that you're doing, that's when you change. So if
Yeah,
you don't get in touch with the cost of your habits and sticking with negative reactions that aren't truly aligned with who you are, but you're just unconscious to, then you know, if you don't get in touch with the cost, people's motivation to change is there's no impetus.
Yes,
Okay,
there's no
I
impetus.
agree.
And pain can be used as a very powerful impetus for that. The,
Absolutely.
the feeling of that pain. And if that pain is not enough, you can speed up the process. You don't have to wait 20 years to realize that. You can just do it right now and make that,
Yes.
intensify that feeling. And then that can be used in a very healthy way to make very healthy choices.
Okay.
And then the second step will
So
be then, so what will happen if I do make a change? Then in 20 years, you see, I'll have an amazing relationship with my son. We'll be tight. I'll be able to support him. We'll have an